What's going on, y'all? Fred Johnson coming at you today from Osceola County, Florida, and I'm here today to help you have the most efficient open house possible with your parents, most specifically on how to get good information from them. So often teachers will have a sign-in sheet for parents, and it'll look something like this, and they'll walk away with a bunch of names on a paper. But what do you then do with that? Are you going to take the time to type that into some program? Are you going to type out their phone numbers and email addresses? Often it can be hard to read or be easy to make a typo, so it's inefficient to have to go through that twice. You can actually have a Google form or a Microsoft form, have the parents input that for you. The information is all there, and you can actually get some even more helpful information to use moving forward. So I want to show you step by step how to do that. We're going to start out by creating a form, and the way to do that, you can either do a Google form or a Microsoft form. There's probably other forms available, but I'll use those two as an example. So if you're logged into your Google account on Google Chrome, you just type forms.new and boom, it'll take you to a brand new Google form. You can also go to forms.google.com and you can just press that blank to start a blank form. Or, of course, you can just go to your Google Drive at drive.google.com, click New, and scroll down to Form. Regardless, you will end up in the same space with a new form to create. If you're a Microsoft user, you can go to forms.microsoft.com, and from there, you could click New Form. Or you can get to it from the office.com dashboard, and you could simply click Create, and then click Form. So slightly different between Microsoft and Google, but pretty much the same tool. You can do the same things with it. So I will use my preferred method of going to forms.new, and we'll just create a new form. This is where we're going to ask the questions for the information that we want to gather. So it's going to be helpful for you to know what information you want to gather from your parents at open house, and then you can ask the appropriate questions based on that. So I find it helpful to think about ahead of time what information you want to get. So we're going to call this open house parent information, and then over here we can just click on Untitled Form. It'll change the name for us. So big picture, what we're going to do is we're going to create three sections. One section for parent information, second section if there is a second parent or guardian involved for their information, and the third section will be for the student information. The reason I'm gathering student information here, even though I gather it from them in class, because the mistake I've made before is getting a parent's information, name, phone number, all that, and then not knowing what student it was connected to. So I need the parent to identify which student is theirs. Of course, you can look it up individually, but it's very time consuming. So from here, I'm going to ask a few questions based on the information I want to get from the parent. So first question I'm going to ask is first name. I always like to separate first name from last name because it makes it easier to sort. So oftentimes people will put the names in different order, first, last, last, first. So if you specify, people are better at getting it correct. I'm going to make this a required question, so they have to give me their first name. And then rather than making a new question and making that required, I'm just going to duplicate this one because it'll already be required. And I can just put last name here. Next question that's very important to me is I want to know what their relationship is to the student. So I want to know if this is mom or dad or grandma or grandpa, guardian. So I'm going to give them multiple choice, and they can choose from and tell me what their relationship is. I'm going to give as many options as I can think of, and if I didn't get all of them, I'll add an option for other, in case there's some other circumstance. So they'll choose from this list what their relationship is. This can be very helpful. I had an assistant principal in a parent conference once and asked, are you grandma? And she was like, no, I'm mom. We're all like, oh. And so this can be a good way to avoid that and not directly have to ask, hey, are you mom? And so after that, I want to make sure I get their phone number. So we'll put the phone number here, and I'll switch that to a short answer. It's required, and I'm going to duplicate. I also want to get their email address. I'm going to make that required, although I know not every parent in the world has an email address. So in the event that I get a parent that doesn't, they can just put something there so they can submit. Just put, I don't have one, or I don't have one at gmail.com. But this way I will require an email address from everyone that does have one because I want that information. And then I want to ask the parent, how do you prefer to be communicated with? And I will only put the preferences that I'm willing to do. So if they prefer snail mail, like that's not an option. So I'm actually going to put checkboxes here so they can choose more than one. Put text, call, and email. Those are the only three. I'm not faxing, I'm not sending letters in the mail, so you can choose from the three that are available. So I'm not going to add other to this one. I'm going to duplicate, and I want to ask the parent, what are your goals for your child this school year? Of course, I'm going to ask the student this separately. Often this is a different answer, but I like to know what the parent wants for their child as well. So I'll put a paragraph option so they can fill that in. And then another very important question, I want to know what language is spoken at home. And because this is often, in some cases, more than one language, I'll put checkboxes and they can check which languages. So depending on your region and where you're located, you probably have different languages spoken at your school. So I'm going to put the ones that were most often spoken at the schools I worked at, and you can adjust. You're not going to be able to put all the hundreds of languages in the world. So choose the top 5 or 10, and then you can add other for anybody that speaks a different language to add theirs so they're not left out. So I'll put English, Spanish, Portuguese. We had a lot of Haitian Creole speakers as well as French, and then occasionally some Vietnamese and Mandarin. And I'm going to add other for anyone to add other languages that they may speak. Next question I want to ask is, do you know who your child's guidance counselor is? I want to know this because if they don't know, they need to know, so I want to tell them. And if they do know, it's great. So I want to switch this to multiple choice, but I've already got all these options. I don't want to have to press X a bunch of times. So the trick is just switch to short answer and switch it back to multiple choice. And it kind of clears it. I'm going to put yes or no. And then I'm going to ask them if they would be interested in a parent conference. Notice the parents that have parent conferences with teachers. It was always very helpful for students to know they were being held accountable. So I'll put yes, no. And I may add an option for other here if they want to say, yeah, but maybe later in the year or something like that. A lot of parents don't even know this is an option. And then one of my favorite questions, is there anything else I should know? And I'm going to leave this open-ended, and you'll get all kinds of stuff here. A lot of people will put NA or, they don't want to put any more information, but you'll get some good stuff. One of the most helpful ones is, hey, my student's been homeschooled their whole life. This is their first year of public school. That's really good to know. Or they've got some disease or sickness or circumstance. This is really, you'll get all kinds of stuff here. And then the last question I'll ask in this section is there another parent/guardian that you would like to receive communication/updates about your child's progress? Make this a multiple choice question, and I'm going to spell child correctly. I'm going to put yes or no. So this is the end of my first section. What I'm going to do here is I want to make another section now, and the last section will be a section for students, but I want a second section that's going to be for the second parent if there's another parent at home or guardian. So I'll click here to add a section. That's this last option. If you hover your mouse over, it'll say add section. And now I'm on section 2. What I actually want to do is scroll up to the top to section 1, which is this kind of making a section 2 kind of made this a section 1. And I want to duplicate this because a lot of the questions will be the same. So I'm duplicating section 1. And now that became section 2. So section 1 and section 2 are now identical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the last question on section 1. Is there another parent guardian that you would like to receive communication updates about your child's progress? I want them to go to a section based on their response here. So if they put no, I want to skip section 2. If they put yes, then they'll fill this section 2 out for the second parent. So I'm going to click in the drop down or the snowman for this last question and click go to section based on answer. So on the last question of section 1, I'm putting go to section based on answer. If they put yes, there's another parent guardian, they're going to section 2. If they put no, then we're just going to go straight to section 3, which will be the student section. So now section 2 will be second parent/guardian information. And then we'll just leave all these questions. I may make some of these questions optional, since the first parent already answered them, so they don't have to answer all of the questions. Like what language spoken at home might be the same ones. Now, it could be a different household, so I'm going to leave them all open, but I don't have to make them all required. So I'm pretty much done with section 2. Last section is the easiest one. This is going to be the student information section. I'm getting a lot of information directly from the student when I give them a survey to fill out. So here I really just want to add a question that says first name. The idea here is that I'm connecting the parent to the student. I need to know which parent is connected to which student. So I'm going to make that a required question, duplicate it, last name. And then I can ask more questions from the parent about their child, but that's all I really need here. I can ask if they're going to be involved in sports or clubs or activities, but I just usually ask the student that. So I'm done creating my form. And just as a quick review, if I were to go to the top, I've got the name of the form, a first section, which is for parent 1, a section, which is for parent 2, and a third section, which is for your student. I'll eventually be able to see the responses here when people start to fill it out. So now, how do I get parents to fill it out? I can't just give them this link, because then they'll be editing my form. So what I'll do is I can send it, but my preferred option is this little eyeball with the preview. I can click on this, and this link is now a live link, and I can have parents fill this out. So I can just cut and copy and paste this link. A few options for how to do it. If you've got several computers or tablets in your room, you can just have them opened and available for parents to fill this out when they get there. You could also just duplicate this tab and have all parents fill it out on the same computer. And just when they're done, they can close it. Or you could actually take this link and make it a QR code and give it to parents for them to fill out on their own devices, on their cell phones or whatever it is. So a parent's not leaving without filling this out. And when they're done, I'm going to go back to my form. So don't mix up yours, which you're editing, with the one parents will fill out. And I'll go to responses, and I'll see all the responses here. Now I prefer to see the responses in a Sheets document, so I'll click here and click create a new spreadsheet, and then it'll give it to me in spreadsheet form. So once parents have started to fill this out, this is what it's going to look like. And I'll see when they filled it out, their first and last name, and their answers to every single question. So what's great about this is open house ends, I get 10 or 20 or 50 email addresses and phone numbers, and I can read through, instead of taking time to write it all out, now I can actually read through the information. I've got the phone numbers, which I'm not going to use yet, but I am going to blast out an email just saying, and just copy and paste all those emails, saying, hey, thanks for coming to open house, reach out with any questions or comments. And that's it. Now I'm in communication with the parents via email, which is preferred for me as a teacher. I don't have time to be making all these phone calls. So email kind of puts it in a more asynchronous format. So I've got all their email addresses, and any parent that didn't come or that didn't get it, I can continue to ask them to fill it out, try and incentivize students to have their parents fill it out. And any other events at school that parents come to, you can have them fill it out there too. So this is great to have. You'll never get all of the parents to fill it out, but as many as you can, you're getting great information about what their goals are for their students, what life's like at home, and whatever they put that you should know about their child. So just make sure to add that part at the end. You'll notice the last response here will be first and last name for which student they're connected to. So you can move these columns around and get them where you need to be, but this is a great document to have. You can always refer to it and come back to it later on to say, oh, who's so-and-so's parent, what's their phone number, what's their email, what's their preferred method of communication. So great tool. Don't let a parent leave your classroom without filling it out. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to create, but 100% worth it, rather than just getting a piece of paper with random handwriting all over it. So hope this was helpful. Please let me know how you do this in your classroom if you have additional ideas. And if this brought value for you, please like, comment, or subscribe. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have an awesome day.